There's something most men don't understand. It's not what you say, it's how you make her feel. Many believe the right words are enough, but the truth is that the female mind doesn't respond to logic, it responds to emotion. And that's the secret behind why some men stay in a woman's mind all day, while others fade away within hours. You can be kind, attentive, and a gentleman, but if you don't spark that emotional connection inside her, she won't remember you. On the other hand, a simple nickname, said at the right moment and with the right energy, can leave a mark in her memory, an emotional anchor she can't erase. Many men make the same mistakes over and over again. They use empty phrases, generic nicknames, or expressions that sound romantic, but actually kill attraction. They say "my love," "sweetheart," or "baby," without realizing that those words don't make her feel special, they make her feel replaceable. Women don't become obsessed with the man who treats them well, they become obsessed with the one who makes them feel unique. That's why the right nicknames aren't invented to sound cute, they're built from emotional connection and masculine presence. Once you understand how her mind works, you learn to use words as triggers of desire, not as empty compliments. If this is your first time here, my name is Celia. I help men understand female psychology from a real, ethical, and conscious perspective, so they can create genuine attraction without pretending or manipulating. Stay until the end, because besides revealing the 5 most powerful nicknames to awaken desire and obsession, I'll also share how to land the perfect first date and the keys to keeping that attraction alive over time. Let's get started. Before we talk about words or nicknames, we need to understand the root of it all, how attraction is triggered in a woman's mind. And the first thing you must know is that she doesn't choose to feel attracted, she just feels it. It's not rational. It doesn't come from a checklist of qualities or from what you say or do. Attraction appears when something about you awakens a specific emotion. It might be a look, an attitude, the way you talk, or how you move. When that happens, her body reacts before her mind even processes it. That's why, when a man tries to convince or impress, he's doing the opposite. He's breaking the magic of mystery, that feeling that sparks her desire without any logical explanation. At its core, female attraction is deeply connected to the energy you project, not the words you say. If she senses calm, direction, and confidence, her brain interprets that as value. But if she detects anxiety, neediness, or urgency, her mind responds with disinterest. This is why a man can have every desirable quality and still not inspire desire. His body language, tone of voice, or how he handles silence communicate far more than his words. When you understand that, you stop trying to please her and start connecting from your frame, not from the need for approval. We've seen that attraction isn't a rational process, it's emotional. And in that realm, words are like keys that unlock invisible doors. A nickname, for example, can completely transform the connection if it carries intention. It's not the word itself that creates the effect, but the emotion she feels when she hears it. If the nickname makes her feel seen, safe, and desired all at once, she'll subconsciously associate that feeling with you. But if the nickname feels forced, cheesy, or overused, it triggers rejection because it loses authenticity. The power lies in what you make her feel, not what you say. When a woman is emotionally stimulated, her focus shifts toward you. She starts thinking about you more, imagining you, wondering why you make her feel different. That's the beginning of obsession. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding the natural mechanism of her attraction. In her mind, emotion always overrides logic. So if you learn to spark her curiosity and desire in an ethical way, you won't have to chase. She'll seek the connection, the conversations, and the moments with you. Attraction, in the end, is an energy dance. When you lead with calm, she relaxes and trusts. When you show calibrated humor, you ignite her interest. When you're not afraid of silence, you create tension and presence. Those subtle nuances build real magnetism. There's no magic phrase, just a way of being. And that way, your tone, your rhythm, your gaze is what turns any word into something powerful. That's why, before talking about nicknames, you need to understand that every word must come from that energy. If a nickname comes from playfulness, humor, or genuine desire, it feels natural. If it comes from trying to please, it feels like lack. The difference is invisible, but the effect is massive. She doesn't remember what you said. She remembers how she felt when she heard it from you. And once you master that, everything else flows. With that in mind, let's move on to something more concrete. How a simple nickname can become such an intense emotional connection tool that it completely changes the way she perceives you. When a man calls a woman by a nickname, he's not just using a word, he's triggering an emotional memory. Nicknames personalize the connection. They make her feel that what you share is unique, different from what she has with any other man. The moment a woman hears a nickname that feels natural, intimate, and full of intention, her brain associates it with pleasure, safety, and belonging. It doesn't matter if you see each other every day or just started talking. The right nickname can create an invisible bridge. She'll remember even when you're not around. Nicknames work because they act as an emotional imprint. When someone calls you by your full name, it feels formal and distant. But when they use a word only the two of you share, something shifts. She feels you're speaking to her emotional side, not her rational one. So far, we've learned that attraction comes from how you make her feel, not what you say. And the nickname is a direct tool for doing exactly that. It tells her that you see her, that you remember her, and that there's something special about her. That lowers her defenses and makes her feel connected. However, a nickname only has power if it comes from authenticity. When you try to copy one you've heard or use it just to please, it shows. She can sense whether you're acting from genuine desire or from neediness. That's why before saying any word, you should check the energy you're expressing it from. If your intention is to connect and play, it'll make her smile. If your intention is to win her over at all costs, it'll put her on guard. What determines the impact of your words isn't the sound, it's the emotional state behind them. The psychology behind nicknames is simple but profound. When you give something a name, you make it matter. And when you give someone a personal name, you're saying, "I see you." Women, on an unconscious level, associate that with emotional validation. That doesn't mean you should exaggerate or use overly sweet diminutives. It means finding a word that expresses how you see her without losing your masculine essence. A nickname can be sweet, funny, or suggestive, but it must always hold a bit of truth, something only she would understand. There's also a crucial difference between nicknames that bring you closer and those that push you away. The ones that bring you closer spark emotion. They make her laugh, feel warmth, or feel desire. The ones that push her away sound impersonal, generic, or recycled. My love or baby may sound affectionate, but they're so common they've lost meaning. In contrast, a nickname born from an inside joke, a shared story, or a private moment becomes hers. And when she hears it, she feels a small emotional spark. That's what makes her think of you when you're not around. The ideal nickname doesn't aim to dominate or control. It creates a shared space where both of you recognize each other. It's a way of speaking that blends humor, confidence, and attraction. When you make her feel that you share a private code, you awaken her desire to keep that bond alive. She'll text you just to hear you use it again, to feel that same emotion. She's not chasing the nickname itself, she's chasing the feeling it gives her when it comes from you. Now that we understand how a simple nickname can become an emotional imprint, let me show you the first one. It's subtle yet powerful, and it awakens her deepest instinct, the desire to nurture, connect, and move closer to you emotionally. There's a very deep part of feminine nature that instantly responds when she feels tenderness and calm. It's that instinct that makes her want to care, to get closer, to connect emotionally. It's not about weakness, it's about connection. When a man manages to touch that chord within her, he stops being a stranger and becomes someone she feels she can trust. That's where this type of nickname comes in, the one that awakens her protective instinct. It's not childish or overly sweet. It's a word that makes her feel she can be authentic with you, that she doesn't need to be on guard. This kind of nickname works because it stirs an emotion that blends tenderness and admiration. It's a rare but powerful mix. She feels drawn to you, wants to be close, to nurture you in some way, but at the same time, she respects and values you. She doesn't sense neediness, she senses humanity. That's why, when you use a nickname that sounds vulnerable without sounding weak, you create an emotional connection that no superficial compliment could ever achieve. That mix of strength and warmth in your tone shifts her energy. It takes her from analysis to emotion. And that's the exact moment when attraction begins to grow naturally. We've already established that words mean nothing without the right energy behind them. In this case, the nickname that awakens her protective instinct should come with a calm tone and a soft gaze. Don't say it to get something, say it to convey presence and trust. The key is to make it feel spontaneous, almost unconscious. When a nickname is said naturally, without expecting a reaction, it becomes authentic. And authenticity is one of the most powerful female aphrodisiacs. For example, if during a conversation she tells you something funny or mentions a clumsy moment, and you smile at her and say something like "little troublemaker" or "my favorite scatterbrain," you're blending humor with tenderness. You're not mocking her, you're making her feel understood. And when a woman feels understood, she relaxes. That emotional relaxation is the exact point where connection begins. Not because she needs you, but because she enjoys being herself around you. This kind of nickname also creates memories. She might go about her day, do something silly, and suddenly smile as she remembers what you called her. That thought takes her straight back to you, even when you're not there. Every time a word from you becomes linked to a pleasant emotion, you leave an imprint in her mind. And there's nothing more powerful than that, when her brain starts to associate you with a feeling of well-being. That's where obsession begins. In that small pleasure circuit you trigger through the way you communicate. You do have to be careful, though, not to confuse vulnerability with weakness. True vulnerability shows your humanity, not fragility. When you use an affectionate nickname, but with the grounded energy of a man who has direction and confidence, she feels it differently. It's not "poor thing," it's "I love the way he looks at me when he says that." That difference is what separates healthy attraction from emotional dependency. Ultimately, this first type of nickname doesn't aim to dominate or impress, it aims to connect. It lets her feel emotionally safe without losing interest. And that's something few men achieve. When you combine tenderness with masculine presence, you create a balanced tension that's hard to forget. Now, before we move on to the next type of nickname, I want to pause for a moment with you. This project, every word and every story I share, is meant to help you understand how women think and feel so you can build real connections without tricks or pretenses. If this content is helping you, take a moment to subscribe, hit like, and leave your name and country in the comments. I love reading them and seeing where in the world this community is growing from. You can also share your personal experience or a piece of advice from your own story. That said, let's get back to the topic and move on to a completely different kind of nickname, the one that, instead of awakening tenderness, sparks desire and curiosity in her mind. Every woman carries within her a curious, playful, and deeply emotional side that only awakens when a man knows how to balance mystery and confidence. That exact balance is what ignites desire. It's not about using explicit words or trying to provoke her. It's about creating a subtle emotional tension that keeps her thinking about you without knowing why. And the right nickname can be the spark that sets it all off. A nickname that sounds intriguing, breaks her routine, and can only come from you, awakens a sense of playfulness and connection that's impossible to ignore. When a man uses a nickname with just the right touch of mischief, without being vulgar, what he's really doing is activating her emotional mind. She starts to associate that name with something stimulating, something that sparks anticipation. Each time she hears it, she relives the emotion she felt when you first said it. That's why these kinds of nicknames work best when spoken in calm moments, paired with a confident smile and a slightly lower tone of voice. You don't need seductive words, just intention. Intention is the language her subconscious understands better than any rehearsed line. In previous sections, we learned that tenderness builds trust, but desire is born from contrast. If you always make her feel safe without adding a touch of tension, the connection becomes flat. This type of nickname creates that contrast, a small dose of mystery. She doesn't know if you're serious, teasing, or simply enjoying her reaction, and that very ambiguity is what makes her feel alive. Attraction grows in nuance, not certainty. The secret lies in the balance between humor and suggestion. If the nickname is too direct, it breaks the spell. If it's too innocent, it loses its magnetism. For example, if you make her laugh during a light-hearted conversation and then, in a calm tone, call her trouble or dangerous, you're conveying both recognition and desire. You're not objectifying her, you're making her aware of her own power. And when a woman feels that a man recognizes her feminine energy with confidence and elegance, desire naturally follows. These nicknames also have an interesting side effect. They create emotional tension that builds over time. Every time you call her that, you're feeding a playful exchange between the two of you. It becomes a silent code only you both understand. That shared complicity builds intimacy, and intimacy is the space where real desire is born. Not immediate physical desire, but the kind that lingers in her mind, making her think of you throughout her day, remembering your tone, your look, or that exact pause before you said it. The most important thing to remember is that desire can't be forced. It's suggested. Nicknames that awaken curiosity aren't commands or compliments. They're invitations. They say, "I like who you are," without needing to explain it. And that has a powerful effect because it leaves her intrigued, caught between playfulness and attraction. In that state, she doesn't feel pressured, she feels free. And emotional freedom is the gateway to desire. Finally, when you use this kind of nickname, make sure your body language matches it. Your gaze must back up what your words suggest. If you say it with insecurity, the magic breaks. But if you do it with calm presence, it becomes an emotional experience she won't forget. It's not about the word, it's about how you say it. That coherence is what separates a man with natural charm from one who's merely trying to seduce. With that said, let's move on to a completely different kind of nickname, the one that not only attracts her or stirs desire, but also reinforces your natural leadership and makes her admire your direction, your sense of control, and your steady masculine energy. There's a simple truth most men don't understand. A woman isn't looking for a perfect man, she's looking for one who makes her feel safe under his energy. Safety isn't imposed, it's transmitted. And a nickname can be one of the subtlest ways to show emotional leadership, the kind that doesn't need authority or volume because it's felt in your tone, your calm, and your ability to lead without dominating. When you use a nickname that reinforces your sense of direction and stability, she doesn't just respect you, she trusts you. And for a woman, trust is the foundation of lasting attraction. This type of nickname communicates emotional command. It's not sweet or provocative, it conveys direction and presence. It's how a man with a solid frame can capture attention without raising his voice. For example, nicknames like Miss, Rebel Princess, or even Difficult Girl, spoken with a calm tone and a slight smile, radiate balanced power. It's not the nickname itself, but the energy behind it. Calm, humor, and control. You're showing her that you can play without losing your center, that you don't need validation because you're comfortable in your own skin. So far, we've seen that tenderness builds trust and playfulness sparks desire, but leadership inspires admiration. And when a woman admires you, her attraction multiplies. She feels she can relax around you, that she can let her guard down because she senses direction. The nickname, in this case, becomes a subtle reminder of that natural dynamic between the masculine and the feminine. Not a hierarchy of power, but of energy. You lead, she flows. That balance is at the heart of every stable and magnetic connection. The mistake many men make is using nicknames with weak energy, seeking approval through them. When you do it from need, the message is, "I want you to accept me." But when you do it from leadership, the message is, "I've already accepted you, and I enjoy who you are." That difference completely changes her perception of you. She sees you as a man with direction, self-assurance, and the ability to guide the rhythm of the interaction with elegance. Leadership in attraction isn't about controlling her. It's about holding emotional tension without breaking it. When you use a firm nickname with a calm smile, you're sending the message that you know how to calibrate intensity. That makes her feel safe, because she senses that she can let go without you crossing any lines. A nickname spoken from stability is far more attractive than any rehearsed phrase. She won't remember it as just a sweet word, but as a moment when she felt you were in control. There's another key point: congruence. If you call her by a name that implies leadership, but your actions don't match, if you come across as indecisive, jealous, or inconsistent, the nickname loses its power. Everything you say must be backed by your behavior. Respect is maintained when there's coherence between what you say and what you project. A strong nickname without strong energy behind it turns into noise. But when the two align, you create magnetism. And remember, masculine leadership also shows in your ability to stay calm in the midst of emotion. When a woman sees that you don't lose control, that you can handle tension or discomfort with composure, her mind links that with safety and strength. That's why, when a nickname like this comes from your lips, its impact goes beyond words. It becomes an emotional experience that reaffirms your presence. With this balance between emotional authority and subtlety, let's move on to the next kind of nickname, the one that leaves behind the power dynamic to build a space of intimate complicity, where the two of you share a private code that only you understand. That's where real relationships deepen. There's a moment in every connection when attraction stops being tension and turns into complicity. It's when both people feel they share something no one else understands, a kind of secret language that makes every conversation sparkle with its own chemistry. The nickname that creates intimate complicity does exactly that. It becomes an emotional key that only the two of you know. And once you achieve that, you're no longer just another man in her life. You're someone she feels she has a story with. This kind of nickname doesn't appear right away. It comes once there's already a level of trust, when laughter blends with glances and time together flows effortlessly. It's not a nickname she's heard before, nor one you could use with anyone else. It's unique because it's born from something you shared. It might come from a funny moment, an inside joke, a gesture, or even a detail you were the only one to notice. What matters is that when she hears it, she knows it's hers. That's where its power lies. It reminds her that you see her in a way no one else does. So far, we've seen that tenderness makes her trust you, playfulness intrigues her, and leadership makes her admire you. But complicity makes her fall in love. It's the point where she stops analyzing you and starts imagining you in her life. When the connection reaches that level, you don't have to force anything. She naturally wants to keep it going because it feels addictive. Intimate nicknames are a kind of emotional signature. She can hear your voice even when you're not there, and that makes her feel accompanied even in your absence. A clear example is when something ordinary turns into a shared symbol. Imagine that one time, jokingly, you called her Coffee Rebel because she always ordered the opposite of what everyone else did at the cafe. It may seem trivial, but if you say it with the right tone, it becomes a word filled with meaning. Every time you use it, she'll remember that moment, the laughter, the look, the atmosphere. You're not naming a thing or a role, you're evoking an emotion. And emotions are the true glue of attraction. The power of this kind of nickname lies in its exclusivity. She doesn't want to be baby or sweetheart. She wants to feel different. Generic nicknames are replaceable. Personal ones aren't. When you give her a nickname that only you use and that only makes sense between you, you bring her into a private little world. And that world, no matter how simple, becomes her emotional refuge. Amid the noise, you're the one who understands her without words. That's the difference between being liked and being unforgettable. Complicity also has a touch of humor. There's no stronger bond than two people who can laugh together. If the nickname carries a playful tone or a bit of inside humor, She'll associate it with emotional pleasure. Never underestimate the power of making her smile. When a woman laughs with you, she drops every defense. And if she feels that humor only works between you, you're creating real intimacy. Finally, understand that complicity is maintained with consistency, not repetition. It's not about saying the nickname all the time, but using it at the right moments. When she's uncertain or seems distant, a word charged with shared history can reconnect her to you instantly. That's the magic of complicity, an invisible bridge that withstands distance, silence, and time itself. And speaking of time, there's one more kind of nickname, the one that goes beyond the moment. It's the nickname that not only sparks attraction, but keeps it alive as the years go by, when the initial excitement starts to fade. It's the nickname that keeps the spark, the desire, and the admiration burning even when routine tries to dim them. That's our next step. When a relationship matures, the greatest challenge isn't winning her over. It's keeping her desire and admiration alive as time goes by. The nickname that preserves attraction isn't about reliving what once was, but about keeping the emotion of what still can be. It's a word that reminds her that, even if the bond has become stable, the spark is still there. And that's what separates the men she remembers for a lifetime from those who were merely a phase. This type of nickname isn't necessarily romantic or playful. It's a reminder of energy. It's the tone in your voice that makes her feel you still look at her with desire, that you still see her as a woman, not as routine. Over time, many couples lose that tension because men stop feeding admiration. But when you keep the emotional language of the beginning, the mix of humor, playfulness, and affection, she starts to feel desired again. And a nickname that evokes that energy reconnects her with the man who once captured her heart. In the previous chapters, we saw how tenderness builds trust, playfulness ignites desire, leadership inspires respect, and complicity creates unity. This final type of nickname combines all of that. It carries the warmth of the beginning, the subtlety of play, and the strength of admiration. It's not something you say every day, but when you do, it awakens in her a familiar yet exciting feeling, as if she's rediscovering you, even after years together. The key is not letting routine kill the details. A well-timed nickname can break even the heaviest monotony. When you look at her calmly and say that special word, she feels that you still choose her, that you don't take her for granted. That small gesture, filled with intention, reminds her she still matters. And that keeps her emotionally attentive to you. There's no desire without attention. That's why small gestures sustain what big promises often can't. In long-term relationships, a nickname also serves another purpose. It keeps the play alive. Attraction fades when everything becomes predictable, and playfulness is the most natural way to break that stiffness. If the nickname is used with humor, a touch of irony, or shared complicity, it reignites your dynamic. It doesn't matter your age or how long you've been together. Flirting has no expiration date. In fact, the more mature the bond, the more important it is to remember the lightness of the beginning. The power to keep attraction alive lies in not letting the relationship become only comfortable. Nicknames are a simple way to remind her that desire still exists, that she still inspires you. And when a woman feels she continues to awaken that energy in you, she responds in kind. What you give comes back. It's an emotional feedback loop. You look at her with desire, she desires you again. You make her laugh, she seeks you out. The connection feeds on those small gestures that, though seemingly insignificant, are what truly sustain the magic. And for those who haven't reached that stage yet, for those who want to attract, get that first date, and leave an unforgettable impression, there's a crucial step you can't skip. Because if you don't know how to create the right atmosphere from the start, no nickname will work. That's why I want to end this journey with a very special bonus. How to create that first date that truly works, and the keys that will make her remember it as the beginning of something that mattered. On a first date, most men focus on impressing, when what truly sparks attraction is the feeling of connection and safety. From how you choose the place to how you talk, everything communicates. The key is for her to feel that you're enjoying the moment without anxiety, that you're leading with calm. A relaxed environment, a touch of humor, and an easygoing attitude are worth more than any rehearsed line. If you can make her feel comfortable and emotionally engaged at the same time, the stage is set for your words, and yes, your nicknames, to truly take effect. Once that initial connection is built, keeping it alive is easier than it seems. It's about caring for the details, preserving respect, tension, and mutual admiration, because desire isn't sustained by promises, but by presence. Now that you understand how emotions work behind every word and how to use them to build something real, it's time to close this journey by learning how to maintain everything you've created: the desire, the connection, and the bond that truly lasts. When you understand that words aren't just sounds but emotions, everything changes. Used the right way, nicknames become symbols of connection, desire, and complicity. They're not magic formulas or calculated phrases. They're bridges born from authenticity, from the balance between your masculine energy and your ability to make her feel safe, seen, and valued. What you've learned here isn't about vocabulary, it's about presence. A man with presence doesn't need to say much. Every word he speaks leaves a mark because it comes from his center. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that attraction isn't convinced, it's provoked. And it's provoked by being yourself, but your best version, calm, grounded, and with nothing to prove. When you can combine tenderness with strength, humor with direction, and desire with respect, you become the kind of man a woman never forgets. Not because he insists, but because his very presence conveys something rare: balance. That's what lights up the female mind and keeps admiration alive over time. Thank you for making it this far and joining me on this journey. If you felt that this content brought you value, I invite you to subscribe, hit like, and turn on the notification bell so we can keep learning together. Your comments are an essential part of this community. I always read them, and it makes me happy to know from which country you're watching and how these ideas are impacting your life. This space exists to help you build real, solid, and conscious connections. Thank you for being part of it, and remember, women don't become obsessed with what they hear, but with what they feel when a man knows how to say it. See you in the next video.